So hello everyone, how are you all doing today? My name is Taylor and I'll be running this thing. And with me is Lisa and Renee, and they are my coworkers. And today we're going to be talking about municipal staff satisfaction and the importance of that, some of the issues that lead to a lower satisfaction, and then also how you can use digital tools and adopt a digital solution in order to uh, help mitigate some of those issues and hopefully improve staff satisfaction, improve workload, all that sort of thing. So we're gonna have a few polls throughout the session that just for some interactivity. If you have any questions throughout, please don't hesitate to put them in the chat. Lisa and Renee will be taking a look at that and I'll be able to answer them right away. And then we'll have time for questions at the end as well. So I'm going to turn off my webcam so it's just the slideshow. You don't need to see my face dancing around here. Alrighty, so let's get started. So staff dissatisfaction. So we're going to take a look at some of the causes and then what those spiral into and what those can lead to. So first, we're going to start with a quick poll. Launch that here. So which of the following would you consider a concern for your organization? And you can pick all of the ones that apply to you. And can you guys see that, Lisa?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, perfect. Give you one more minute here to respond if you're interested. Okay. Oh, we have a few people joining here. Just let those people in and get settled. Okay, so it looks like biggest ones are lack of citizen appreciation, which that doesn't surprise me, inflexible duties and workload, with the smattering of the others as well, repetitive tasks, lack of meaningful contribution. All right, so let's discuss some of these issues that can lead to potentially lower staff satisfaction. Repetitive tasks. So that's things doing the same administrative tasks over and over again leads to sometimes a monotonous, even boring job. If the tasks are repetitive, and especially if their thought is, well, why can't a computer be doing this and I can focus on something else? That can lead to a frustrating work environment. And then we have a lack of meaningful contribution. So it's very important that staff, anyone really, in life, feel like they're contributing to something important. This is true for any industry and anything really. People like they're doing meaningful work, they have significantly higher satisfaction. And the statistic there, studies found that there's 3.2 times more likely to have a higher job satisfaction when they consider their work meaningful. So often that one's as important as monetary value, is knowing that you're contributing positively to your industry or the world even. Lack of citizen appreciation, this one's very specific to local government or government in general. If citizens are always complaining and the only time you're hearing from them is when something's gone wrong, it's just a negative spiral. They're never satisfied, and it just kind of weighs down on you over time, and that'll happen to anyone if all they're hearing is the negative aspects from citizens. And then inflexibility. So there's inflexibility sometimes in every aspect, whether it's their workplace, having to be confined to a certain desk, inflexibility in tasks. If there's a certain way to do things and the employee doesn't like that way, it's going to bring down their satisfaction. So satisfaction alone will lead to burnout. And then there's some other things as well that will also lead to staff burnout, which is what we're going to discuss here. And a lot of these issues are tied together directly. So staff burnout is a huge problem in the government worker space. It's much higher than the private sector. Studies have shown that 65% of government workers feel burnt out at work due to heavy workloads. So here's just a handful of reasons that municipal staff specifically could be so much higher. Limited resources, of course, number one, and we hear this all the time from a lot of people we speak to. It's one of the number one issues facing local government, especially smaller and medium-sized municipalities. Limited resources mean there are fewer staff to fill roles and less time, because time is a resource as well, less time to get work done. And this, of course, then leads to the higher workload. Staff often ends up having to wear multiple hats, which leads to that higher workload. And it's always high. So it's not like it's just high for a bit and you can see the end. This constant cycle of high workload that you can't climb out of leads to a discouraging and eventually burnout. And then public scrutiny. This one's very specific to government workers. The entire population you're serving are essentially your customers. And unfortunately, as is the job, you don't often hear from them unless there is a problem. So, like we discussed with satisfaction, constantly having to put out fires leads to a situation that is much higher for burnout. Okay, so what does this cost? The cost of burnout and dissatisfaction. It's been found that an employee with burnout will cost an organization roughly $3,400 out of every $10,000 spent. So the costs might be related to staff needing to take more vacation or just not showing up for work. Or if you have a position that's never getting properly filled, you're always training for it. But outside of financial, which is obviously related here, there's some other costs as well. You don't have time to solve problems properly. Excuse me. With the higher workload and multiple roles being filled, there's less time to spend solving problems that need your attention. It might be internal problems among staff and departments or citizen issues. Regardless, you have less time to devote to fix them. You also can't take time to find the root cause of the issue and address it. So this is going to inevitably lead to avoidable mistakes and long-term issues. And then citizen issues and citizens falling through the cracks. So there's some mistakes can lead to requests that just completely get missed. You have a situation where a citizen has an important concern and it just gets looked over due to this lack of time or other issues going on. And sometimes those citizen concerns can have financial legal repercussions if they get missed. Being short-staffed is another cost. Dissatisfaction and burnout will eventually lead to staff shortages. And we're going to discuss staff turnover very soon here. But it is the inevitable conclusion of this burnout cycle with no end in sight. And then, of course, lower citizen happiness. So all of these first three things are going to lead to a lower citizen satisfaction, which then in turn affects the entire organization. If you have staff who can't focus on the needs of the citizens, it's going to lead to a decline in the quality of service being provided to the entire municipality. So then, staff turnover. All of these things are a direct link that will lead to staff turnover, and that's incredibly detrimental to any organization. So here's some other things other than what we discussed that can lead to a higher staff turnover. Complex or insufficient training. Training is a huge part in keeping staff from the beginning. And if you have insufficient or a complicated training process, it's going to lead to new staff being less likely to stick around. If new employees aren't comfortable in their role within a certain period of time, they'll often leave to find a position where they feel like they can contribute better, which leads back to that wanting to have a meaningful impact. And if they feel like they can't, they won't be as happy. So strong training is very important. Also, having less efficient or manual processes. If you have processes within your organization that is complicated or sometimes just unnecessary, it's going to create this environment where people will see the greener grass in other organizations. when they're exceedingly complicated or have a lot of repeat work, it just leads to frustrated staff who might start looking elsewhere for a position. And yes, yeah. Finally, their job scope exceeds responsibilities. So, like we said with the multiple hats, if they're hired in a certain position and suddenly they're needing to fill significantly different roles that they're not as well versed in, they don't understand, or they just don't like, while still needing to meet the needs of their original role, it could drive people away. There will always be situations in any company or organization where you need to step outside of your position, but if it becomes a continuous pattern, that is when staff start getting frustrated. And then there's another kind of turnover that's happening, again, more prevalent in government work, but it's happening everywhere. Generational turnover. So with the older population moving out of the job force and younger people coming into the job force, it's creating this whole other issue that is linked to staff turnover, but kind of has different causes. And studies show that government organizations are having a difficult time filling and maintaining positions with younger staff. 61% of workers between the ages of 18 and 34 plan to leave their government job in the next year, that a survey found. So why is this turnover happening with these younger people? There might be a desire for change. Younger people have a desire for change. So younger people, it's been shown they want to come in and they want to make an immediate impact. They don't want to just go with the flow. They're more and more wanting to challenge preconceived ideas and processes. And whether it's a change to those processes, the equipment, the software, or even the overall organizational culture, it's important to show that your organization is both willing and able to promote change. The younger generation also have different incentive to work than some others do. To get the best work out of them, I guess is the best way to put that. So work-life balance is one of the top concerns for younger people, sometimes even more so than the pursuit of wealth or promotions. So offering work from home, flexible PTO, vacation, things like that are often as valuable or more valuable than just regular bonuses. And it's going to look positive for people looking at a job in your organization, in your municipality. And then a modern approach. So the younger generation needs a modern approach to the day-to-day workflow of a position, and that's going to be a positive thing for younger people as well. They want workflows that they understand because they have grown up with the computer in their hands, and they want their career to match that level of tech understanding. And paper-based processes can sometimes scare them away. Kids don't learn how to handwrite anymore. So while it isn't always possible to just digitize everything, making changes towards a digital environment or offering a digital alternative is one of the best ways to attract younger employees. Okay, so what does staff turnover cost you? So staff turnover costs a lot to any company or any organization, not just financially. Of course, that is a big concern, but there's other things that it costs you. So the recruitment process is a long and tedious and often frustrating thing to do. In government work, again, it's seemingly even more. It takes 3 times as long almost to fill a government role than compared to a private sector. So that's 119 days with an empty position. Other staff need to fill that role, work queues up, and then other staff are making efforts to recruit. So it's lost productivity overall. Even if you're training, you have that lost productivity. So again, that's this 119 days is kind of the average, but that's time. On top of that, you need to hire. Once you hire someone, you still need to train them. You might be looking at a half-year minimum of lost productivity in a single role that other people need to fill in. Loss of institutional knowledge. So this one is interesting, and it's more prevalent in organizations who don't embrace technology as readily. But sometimes you have a staff member who just knows everything. They know all the processes, they know all the people, they have all this knowledge that they've built up over the years. And when they're gone, it's not written down. You can't get it back. They might have some secret way of doing something, or some relationship with a vendor or a citizen that is key and no one even knew it was happening. So when these key staff members leave or move on to a different position, you're going to lose that institutional knowledge that is very difficult to get back. And this type of loss will happen at all levels of the organization, not just the top levels. And then finally, it's going to erode citizen trust. So if citizens can't get this consistent service, if every time they come in and there's someone new talking to them who's training, it's going to have this, they don't have the same level of trust that they're getting the proper service than if they have the same people they talk to every time, following the same process. And less trust means they're not going to be as likely to engage with their local government. And then finally, so all of these things we've talked about, it's this cycle that can be sometimes very tough to get out of. It's a repeating cycle for good or bad. You improve something, it can spiral, but if something's not going as well, it's going to be a vicious cycle. The turnover leads to loss of knowledge, loss of productivity. It affects citizen services in a negative way, which is going to then decline citizen satisfaction. And then the citizen satisfaction decline means they're not as happy when they're speaking to staff, which has lower appreciation. Staff don't feel as appreciated. Their morale goes down, which causes that burnout. And then it just cycles over and over. Okay, so I've been a negative Nelly here long enough. We've discussed the difficulties of this issue. What can we do about it? So technology is our savior once again, in some ways. So there are lots of ways to mitigate the problems above. A lot of these are easier said than done, and I appreciate that, but all I can do is say it at the moment. But one big thing you can do is just use technology in a gradual basis within your organization. Again, it's more about showing that pattern of change and improvement that is going to help kind of improve every facet of staff satisfaction and citizen satisfaction. So when you're using a manual service delivery, it has a lot of negatives. Before I get through all these though, let's do a poll, sorry. And I'm just curious, which of the following methods, these aren't all antiquated necessarily, but which of the following methods of sharing information within your organization or with citizens does your organization use on a regular basis? And you can pick all that apply. Give another few seconds here. Okay, so I won't close it. You guys can keep answering, but we'll talk about it a little bit here. Email's number one. That's not surprising. Email's so easy to use. Everyone has an email now. It's very commonplace. And Excel spreadsheets, very common. Yeah, they are a good way to report. Yes, we will be sending this entire presentation out later on, probably in the next day or two here, to everyone who registered. So yeah, email's number one, not surprising. Excel spreadsheets, very popular. Social media, I'm impressed with how many people are using social media to communicate. That's good. And then sticky notes is the next most popular one, with the rest being used as well. So everyone's kind of using multiple methods of communicating. That's good. It's better. You want to use everything at your disposal. So there's nothing wrong with any of these. But if you rely on a manual service delivery, and both large and small communities are doing this, it can have some negative outcomes or some things that are just difficult to overcome. And we found specifically in the smaller communities, they often think that there's no other way. Either they can't afford it or there's no solution for these smaller communities, but they're going to face these same problems and concerns regardless of the size of your community. So you might find things like reporting difficulties. So if you're not tracking or managing anything, it's difficult, sometimes impossible, to report on what departments and staff have accomplished. If you don't have a valid and reliable reporting option, you can't communicate to stakeholders, whether it's management, council, citizens. You can't show how effective your department is, your position is, or the entire organization. Data duplication is a huge one. So duplication of data decreases productivity immensely. If you have to write things down, input things twice, it can lead to a lot of issues. It can lead to wrong data, which then leads to errors. When it's virtually impossible to keep records up to date if you are doing things manually or you're having to enter things multiple times. Inevitably, somebody's going to type the wrong thing in two different places, or they're going to forget to put it in one place compared to the other. And these errors are going to creep in and build up, and your entire process will become less and less effective, which will lead to frustration. Excuse me, frustration for both staff and citizens. These manual service deliveries are often paper-based, and a paper-based process is just less efficient. And lowering efficiency, again, just increases workload on staff. And honestly, paper-based processes cost money. The cost of printing, the cost of paper, the cost of storing files, storing documents. Sorry, all of those things are more expensive because they're things you have to buy. And of course, then there's a lack of consistency, which it leads directly to that citizen trust. Everyone, if they're doing it manually, will often have their own ways of doing it as quickly as possible because they want to be more efficient. And so they're developing their own little processes, and it's going to differ from one staff to the next. And then other employees sometimes don't even know why something was done some way, and it makes it more complicated for everyone involved. And then limited knowledge transfer. So if data isn't centralized, knowledge is difficult to pass on. So a good example, a citizen comes in one day and speaks to a person, and they have a concern, they speak to them, they're given some sort of information, and they leave. Next day they come in and have to speak to someone else, and this other person they spoke to from day one is not in. Well, there's a lot of information in that conversation that nobody has now, and the citizen's basically starting over again. So again, you just have more duplication of information and having to repeat tasks over and over. So how can we avoid that? Well, you have a modern solution. So we're going to delve into each of these on their own slide, but what a modern solution is going to kind of high level give you, it's going to provide a hands-off process. It's going to help improve satisfaction and improve the quality and quantity of workload that staff have to manage. So with hands-off processes, what we're talking about here is you can start creating processes and structures to your process that is detailed and well-defined. It ensures that regardless of who a citizen or other staff members are speaking to, it's going to be the same way every time. And having this level of consistency means everything works better. There's trust and reliability in solutions. Having an integrated system means that regardless of which software you're using, which department you're with, doesn't matter, everyone's on the same page. A citizen makes a complaint about a pothole, everyone can see when this complaint was made, how the issue is submitted, who submitted it, how far along in the process it is. Everyone can see that at a glance. It takes all the guesswork out of managing issues and helps communicate within the organization. And this is going to help reduce those manual data errors that we discussed, and just everyone will be on the same page. And then finally, automation is a big facet of creating a hands-off process. If you set up automation within your organization, it means that many of the tasks that we discussed that were mundane or repetitive, they're going to be done by the software and have no input from the staff at all, which is going to lead to less error. There's zero error for mistakes as long as everything is set up properly. You're not going to have missed issues because it's being managed automatically. Issues will be assigned properly to the right people immediately, and everything's going to be done based on how it was set up by the administrators. So provided everything's set up properly, it's all going to run on its own. You don't need to worry about any step in that process. And then it's going to improve the workload, both quantity and quality. And the things we discussed in the last slide are kind of going to trickle down and start leading to these. So less mundane tasks. Automation is going to automate assigning cases. It's going to communicate to staff, communicate to citizens, and that's all taken off your plate. Less duplication of tasks. All the different programs and departments are synchronized with each other, ensuring there's no duplication of tasks. Simplification is a huge one. A good software solution should make your job easier. If your job is harder because of a software solution, then something's not right there. You need a well-crafted, easy to use interface that will help you do a lot of your work, and you don't need to rely on unwieldy, antiquated tech or complicated software that isn't doing what you need it to do. Clear understanding of responsibilities. It means that you can focus on the issues that are assigned to you. So the software is set up to automatically assign tasks. Nobody else is going to get involved unless they're responsible. So you don't have people integrating themselves into an issue that they have nothing to do with. It's just going to be automatically assigned and everyone is on the page that needs to be involved. So all of these things are going to free up labor hours. So I don't mean less staff. What I mean here is that staff can once again focus on the things that help them improve productivity within the organization, improve trust with citizens. Ultimately, they're going to have a more meaningful work experience and have direct impact on the success of the community. And then improve communication. So having a system that automatically communicates with staff, field workers, contractors, citizens, everyone's kept aware in real time of the current status of tasks or issues. There's no extra phone calls, no calling wondering what's going on, no emails back and forth that aren't needed because you can just look up the status of the progress of this case and everything's freely available to everyone involved. And then this is going to lead to improved staff satisfaction, hopefully, if everything's being done right. It means staff have more time to spend on meaningful activities. It's crucial for developing a positive job satisfaction. And staff satisfaction is very important. As you see up there, it achieves roughly a 60% lower turnover. So having happier staff is, of course, super important to keeping them in their role. Work flexibility. This is a huge one, especially for the younger generation. Having work from home policies, or even more simply, it doesn't have to be work from home, but they can do their job without being tethered to their desk. You can submit updates from your phone or tablets. Staff can be out and about and look up the status of a citizen concern on the go. They don't need to be at their desk to do their job. Field staff can update the status of cases or add notes, close cases without coming back to the office. And of course, all this stuff, you're going to have more positive interaction with citizens, hopefully. There's still going to be negative, but the hope is that if citizens have that higher trust and a lot of their needing updates and wondering what's going on will be eliminated, there's going to be more room for positive interaction with citizens, which is going to make everyone happier. And that will help reduce staff burnout. Hands-off processes, reduction in mundane activities. It's going to help reduce staff burnout. They have more time to get their work done and can combat burnout more effectively. And then finally, you need to make sure you're having the right tools for the job. So employees want to do their job to the best of their abilities. That is almost always the case. Most employees want to do what they do right and they want to do it the best. So when they give them the best tools and the right tools, it makes it easier and makes them more effective. Okay, so we've talked about the benefits of a digital solution as they relate to staff satisfaction and reducing employee concerns. So now let's look at what you should look for when shopping around and looking at these digital solutions, because there's a lot out there. And the goal is to find an effective solution for your municipality that can help improve the overall conditions for your staff. But we do have one more poll before I go on. So the question is, have you or your organization been considering adopting a new digital solution or a first digital solution? Mm. Give a few more seconds here. Okay, so a majority of people have one and are happy with it. That's great to hear. That means you guys are doing something right. And then no one doesn't need one. So that's good. I I hope that means I established that they are important in some way. Um, okay, so let's look at how to craft your perfect solution. So the perfect solution, here's what it might look like as it relates to improving the employee experience within your municipality. So first and foremost, simplicity needs to be front and center. If the program is not easy to use for staff and citizens, it's not going to get used. If they can't use it, they're not going to, and it's going to be a waste of money. It can have all the bells and whistles and do all the things that you need it to do, but if it's complicated to use, that doesn't matter. You want to make sure that data is entered once. So what you want to look for is an API, and that means that programs can all talk to each other. If a field is entered in one program, it's automatically going to sync with the other program, and that's going to reduce the amount of data that staff need to input between departments, between software, and it's going to improve efficiency and reduce errors. You want configurability. So the solution or solutions you settle on should not be one size fits all, because it's not going to fit out anyone, because every community has different needs, has different requirements, and you need a solution that can adapt effectively and be properly configured to your needs. And then you should also be able to configure the automation that we discussed earlier. So this one involved in what matters to you. So what we mean by that is that each user, whether it be the citizen or staff, are involved in the issues that relate to them. You shouldn't have a system set up where everything, the tasks and concerns are bottlenecked with one individual or one department who has nothing to do with those concerns and needs to manually pass those on to the right people. That's just going to kind of reduce the effectiveness of having automation. And then finally, the system should be flexible. So if you have a cloud-based system, if it's accessible by a browser and a mobile device, it means that staff and citizens can utilize the system when and where they need it. So I've gone over a lot in this webinar, and it's been a lot of talking and just kind of high level stuff. But I think it's important that we take a look at a practical example of how implementing a digital solution can improve your organization as a whole. So we're going to look at St. Thomas in Ontario and how they were able to do a complete 180 with their citizen issue management process after adopting Access E11. So with St. Thomas, this was their case study they presented to us, but their original issue was that they had senior staff had to be responding to complaints because there wasn't a well developed process set up. So the senior staff who had a lot of other things to do had to take this time responding to complaints. They found it was very difficult to monitor success rates and response times, and they didn't really know how effective their organization was as a whole, plus the individual departments. And they were using an outdated system that wasn't built for customer service. So they were kind of trying to make something fit that wasn't made to do that. And it was just leading to an ineffective process. Citizens weren't as happy, complaints were getting missed, and so they looked for a solution. And once they adopted Access UN1, they found that the employees have used it all across the organization. So it was easy to use. Employees were trained right up front. They understood it, and they were willing to adopt it right away, and everyone started using it. And that very quickly brought a change in process that helped everyone. Is quick. So there's a lot of pre-populated categories and templates. They were able to quickly create new ones that were meant specifically for them. And very quickly, they were able to establish this system and get it being used, and satisfaction among everyone started going up. And it sped up and improved their training process. So they were able to just kind of do everything through this one system, learn the system, and you've kind of learned a lot of what you need to know for your job. And having that sped up training process and improved training process means people were productive quicker and felt like they were contributing better within the organization. So that is my part. I'm going to pass it on to Lisa here, and she's going to discuss Access E11 specifically and how we can help you kind of tackle all these challenges we've discussed so far.
Thanks, Taylor. Before I get into the product itself, just thought I'd take a breather. You can switch the slide. It's fine, Taylor.
Okay.
But take a breather for a second and see if there's any questions so far. We'll definitely have Q&A at the end, but that was a lot of information to digest for sure. So I thought we'd just take a second, see if there's any questions before I introduce the product to you guys. Obviously, the chat or your mics are available to us. Okay, I will take that as a no then. So I know some of you are definitely familiar with Access E11. We've had communications over the last probably several years, if not this year for sure. And I appreciate you joining us today. So just a little bit about how, Access E11 can help improve your workload. We pride ourselves on it being a very easy to use case management and CRM system. And one of the highlights of the product is its configurability. So regardless of what your role is or your colleagues' roles within your municipality, you can configure our system to work in a way that is meaningful to you. So as an example, on this slide, we can see here our case dashboard. That case dashboard can be configured if you're in Public Works to have shortcuts to information that's relevant to the categories within your Public Works department, likewise for Parks and Rec or any other of the departments within your municipality. It's a great place for information at a glance. So you can see in this visual that there are graphs and charts and different images that will help you very quickly, I call it the bird's eye view, into what is active within your community. We also have available to your staff a mobile app, which obviously allows for more flexibility. It allows for your staff members, regardless of location, to be able to update information. If they're in the field, they can add photos, notes, update cases live as it's happening. And then everyone who has access to that case will be updated regarding those changes. And the system itself is fully automated. So all of the enhancements from having an automated system are there, allowing, based on the category that's selected, it's assigned to the right person, and your residents will receive their emails with links connecting them to that case for information to communicate with you throughout the duration of the issues. And Taylor, if you want to go to the next slide, perfect. And just to sort of highlight a little bit more about what Access E11 does, kind of in theme with what we were discussing earlier today, reducing staff effort. The automation tools and the streamlined processes will help alleviate repetitive tasks. The efficiency of the system allows your staff to focus on their higher value responsibilities. And entering all of that information is, really helping lessen the workload for your staff and have them have their time and effort spent where it's more meaningful. We can improve service delivery. There's a few different ways to go about this. I've had municipalities who are trying to establish what they want their service deliveries to look like. So they will use the system, create, a generalized date for all issues that come in, and then with some time behind them, say 9 months, 6 months, whatever they decide on, they can then take a look and see how they performed against those timelines, and then have a true um, guide as to what a proper delivery for each category would be. So that's really helpful, and it allows you to see how you perform against them. Within the system, we have reports that are automated that will allow you to see how you perform against those deliverables for your community. And then it builds satisfaction within your community. Having these quicker, more accurate services, it allows your residents to feel more satisfied. The efficiency leads to a positive impact, and ultimately it builds stronger connections and rapport with the municipality and its residents. Again, if there's any questions, I'd love to answer them or to discuss any of the information Taylor shared with you here. Or I'd love to learn more about your specific municipality, some of your requirements and priorities for the coming months and the year ahead. So let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Lisa. I think you cursed me because it has just started snowing outside as you were talking. All right, so to summarize our webinar so far today, we discussed the importance of staff satisfaction, especially in the local government space. We discussed the issues and causes of reduced staff satisfaction, burnout, and eventually increased staff turnover. Then we moved on to how you can utilize technology to contribute to a more positive work environment with fewer stressors and an overall work reduction, using tech to improve communication, workflow, and satisfaction. We showed St. Thomas as a shining example of how an effective and well-implemented case management system can improve success rates and response times, leading to that overall improvement of satisfaction in their community. And then Lisa spoke to you about Access E1 and how we can be one solution for your municipality to help streamline your issue management workflow, improve communication and satisfaction within your community, and hopefully improve the overall workload of your staff. So I'd like to thank everyone for being here today. One last chance for questions. We will be sending this out to everyone who registered in a day or two here. And there haven't been any questions so far. I'm going to guess there won't be any more, so we're a little early here. Thank you to everyone for joining and listening to me. If you do have a question, just butt in. But yeah, sorry. Thank you for everyone for listening to me and Lisa and having us as part of your lunch hour. For any Americans on the call, happy Thanksgiving and hope you have safe travels this weekend. And to everyone else, I hope you have a good rest of the week.